press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hi everyone. In the last video we discussed what is respiration and what are the different types of respiration and the respiratory organs in different groups of animals. Okay. So today I am going to discuss the human respiratory system. Okay. So human respiratory system consisting of respiratory tract. Human respiratory system consisting of respiratory tract and lungs. So respiratory tract is nothing but a passage by which the air enters the lungs. Okay, so what is respiratory tract? It's also called as respiratory passage. Okay, so it is the passage by which air, atmospheric air enters the lungs. Okay, so this is what are the respiratory tract. And in humans, the respiratory organs are a pair of lungs. Okay, the type of respiration is called as what? So yesterday I discussed the respiration with the help of lungs is called as pulmonary respiration. So human beings have a pair of lungs for respiration, and the type of respiration is called as what? Pulmonary respiration. Pulmonary respiration. Okay. So I will discuss the respiratory tract. First I will write the flow chart and I will explain one by one in detail. Okay. So the respiratory tract begins with external nostrils, a pair of openings which are present above the upper lip. They are called as external nostrils. Okay. So I will write the flow chart now. So the respiratory tract begins with external nostrils. Then the external nostrils opens into nasal chambers. Okay, then the nasal chamber will open into a part of the pharynx that is called as nasopharynx through internal nares. So the next part after the nasal chamber are the internal nares. Then internal nares opens into nasopharynx. Nasopharynx, and the nasopharynx leads to pharynx. So pharynx will open into the next part that is called as larynx. Larynx is also called as voice box or sound box through glottis. So glottis is the opening of the larynx. It is through the glottis the pharynx will open into larynx. And the larynx leads to trachea. Trachea. Okay. Then I will write here trachea. So the trachea will divide into two branches. Okay. So the branches are called as bronchi. So the trachea will divide into two branches that is called as primary bronchi. right and the left primary bronchi. Primary bronchi. Then primary bronchi further divides to form secondary bronchi, and the secondary bronchi divides to form tertiary bronchi. Okay. Then the tertiary bronchi divides and redivides to form bronchioles. Divides to form bronchioles, and the bronchioles in turn divides to form terminal bronchioles, and the terminal bronchioles in turn divides to form respiratory bronchioles, and the respiratory bronchioles divides and redivides from alveolar duct, and the alveolar duct terminates in atria. Atria further opens into alveolar, further opens into, so alveolar duct opens into atria, and atria opens into alveolar sac, and the alveolar sac, finally the alveolar sac leads to alveoli. So this is what the flow chart showing the respiratory tract. Okay. See here, the human respiratory system mainly consists of a respiratory passage, that is the respiratory tract, and the lungs, okay, a pair of lungs. So the respiratory tract begins with a pair of external nostrils. See, it begins with a pair of external nostrils, okay, and the external nostrils will open into nasal chambers, and the nasal chambers will open into nasopharynx through the internal nares. Okay, so the nasal, after the nasal chambers, the next that openings which are present on the posterior side are called as internal nares. Through the internal nares, the nasal chambers will open into nasopharynx. Nasopharynx in turn open. So nasopharynx leads to a pharynx. Pharynx is usually differentiated into three regions. So the nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx, that I will discuss later. Okay. Then the pharynx, later it opens into a larynx, that is called, which is located in the neck region. So that is called as voice box. So through an opening that is called as glottis. It is through the glottis the pharynx will open into larynx. Then the larynx leads to trachea. Then trachea, it will divide into right and left branches. Okay, so those branches are called as bronchi, primary bronchi. The primary bronchi, upon entering into the lungs, it will divide further into secondary bronchi, and the secondary bronchi in turn divides to form tertiary bronchi, and the tertiary bronchi divides and redivides to form bronchioles, and the bronchioles in turn divides to form terminal bronchioles, and the terminal bronchioles divides to form respiratory bronchioles, and the respiratory bronchioles leads to alveolar duct. The alveolar duct will terminate in atria, and the atria will open into alveolar sac, and finally the alveoli. Okay, so this is what the flow chart showing the respiratory tract from external nostrils up to the alveoli. Okay, so I will explain one by one in detail now. Okay, so which is the first part then? External nostrils. Understood? Okay. See this diagram. I drawn this diagram just to show you the parts of the respiratory tract. So you need not to practice this diagram. Okay. See in this diagram. So which is the first part of the respiratory tract? External nostrils. So external nostrils. What are external nostrils? External nostrils are nothing but a pair of openings of our nose. Okay, the openings of our nose are called as, see, the openings of our nose are called as what? External nostrils. External nostrils are how many in number? 2 in number, a pair. External nostrils are paired, right? Okay, so they are how many in number? 2 in number. They are also called as external nares. They are also called as what? External nares. Okay. So it is, so these are nothing but the openings of our nose which are present above the upper lip. Okay. So these two holes are called as external nares. Okay. So it is through these openings the atmospheric air will enter into the respiratory system. Okay. Then, so the external nares leads to a cavity inside. So inside the external nares will open into a cavity inside. So that cavity it is called as what? The nasal cavity. What it is called? Nasal cavity. So the cavity which is present inside after the external nostrils, no, that is called as the nasal cavity, and that nasal cavity is divided into 2 chambers. See, this is a, okay. So these are the openings of our nose. So these are the external nostrils. Okay. So these external nostrils leads inside these external nostrils, they open into a cavity. Okay. So this cavity it is called as what? Nasal cavity. Okay. So this cavity is divided into 2 chambers. Okay, so this is divided into 2 chambers. Okay, so these chambers are called as what? Nasal chambers. Okay, these are called as what? Nasal chambers. So nasal chambers are how many in number? 1, 2. 2 in number. External nostrils 2 in number. Nasal chambers 2 in number. And this is what? The nasal septum. This is a nasal septum. So this nasal septum divides the nasal cavity into 2 chambers. So the chambers are called as what? Nasal chambers. So nasal chambers, right nasal chamber and the left nasal chamber. Okay. So this is what? The side view. Okay. This is one showing one side, that is one nasal chamber, one side. This is the side view. And here, which is the external, that is the first part, the first part of the respiratory tract, external nostrils. The external nostrils will open into nasal chambers. So this is the second part. Okay, the external nares or the external nostril will open into the nasal chamber. So nasal chambers are how many? 2 in number, and each nasal chamber is divided into 3 portions. Each nasal, this is one nasal chamber and this is another nasal chamber, and this nasal chamber, each nasal chamber is divided into 3 portions. Okay, so according to the function it is differentiated into 3 regions. Say, let us see the different regions. The first region is called as vestibular region. The first region is called as vestibular region. The second is called as, I'll draw here, I'll write here. The first region of the nasal chamber is vestibular chamber. Vestibular chamber. And the second region is respiratory chamber, or you can call it as, better to call it as region, vestibular region, respiratory region, and olfactory region. So each nasal chamber is differentiated into 3 regions based on the function. Okay. So the first part it is called, first region it is called as what? Vestibular region, and it is followed by respiratory region, and it is followed by olfactory region, and each region is having its own function. Let us see the functions of different region of the nasal chamber. See, vestibular region. So vestibular region is the first part of the nasal chamber, the initial region of the nasal chamber where the external nostrils opens. Okay, so this we can consider this chamber, this region, no? So this region is called as what? The vestibular region. The initial part of the nasal chamber where the external nostrils open. So that region is called as vestibular region. Okay, so what is the function of vestibular region? The function of vestibular region is filtration of air. Okay, see this vestibular region, the main function of this vestibular region is the filtration of air. See here, this region, it is lined with vestibular region. The nasal cavity in the vestibular region is lined with mucous membrane. It is lined with mucous membrane that secrete mucus. So what is mucous membrane? Mucous membrane is nothing but epithelial lining. So you know about the different tissues, animal tissues, right? Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, nervous tissue. Okay, so epithelial tissue, that mucous membrane is nothing but what? It is nothing but an epithelial lining. So that contains mucus secreting, that contains glands that will secrete the mucus. So mucus, it is nothing but a slimy substance that helps in lubrication. And in this region you will also find the presence of hair. So in this region you can see the presence of air in this region. So what is the function of air? So the air filter the atmospheric air that enter into the nasal cavity, So what is the function of air here? So air are present in this region, no? Vestibular region, hair. So the hair present here filters the air that enter into the nasal cavity. Okay, so that is what the function of air. And mucous membrane, I said this region is also having, it is lined with mucous membrane, no? So in this membrane some glands are present. Those glands will secrete the mucus, a slimy substance. So that mucus will trap the dust particles and other pollen grains. Okay, so that will prevent. So mucus, it particularly prevent the entry of the dust particles and other pollen grains into the respiratory system. Okay, so that is what the function of mucus. So filtration of air. The air what present in the vestibular region, it filters the air which enter into the nasal cavity. The mucus present in this region will trap the dust particle and prevent the entry of dust particle into the respiratory system. Okay, so this is what the function of vestibular region. So after the vestibular region, next region comes, so this region. Okay, it is called as respiratory region. It is called as what? Respiratory region. What is the function of respiratory region? So the initial part where the external nostrils open is the vestibular region. It is meant for filtration of air. Okay, and after the vestibular region, the next region of the nasal chamber, okay, this region, it is called as respiratory region. Okay, what is the function of respiratory region? So it is involved in air conditioning. It is involved in air conditioning. What is air conditioning? It is mainly perform two important functions. It helps in warming up of air and it also moistens the air. Okay. Suppose if we inhale a cold and dry air, so the cold and dry air may irritate the airways and as well as the lungs. Okay, so if we inhale a cold air, that cold air is brought to a normal body temperature. So here this respiratory region, no, so the nasal cavity in this region is also lined with mucous membrane. Here also mucous membrane is present. Mucous membrane is present and this region is highly vascularized. This region is highly vascularized. See, highly vascularized means what? There is a rich supply of blood to this region. Okay. So highly vascularized, there is a rich supply of blood to this region and it is also lined with a mucous membrane. Okay. So that mucus present in this region, it helps in moistening, it helps in moistening of air. Okay. Vascularized means it is richly supplied with the blood vessels, richly supplied with the blood. See here, suppose if we inhale a cold air, okay, that cold air is brought to a normal body temperature. Okay, so that air is warm up to the body temperature. So it is because of this reason the blood supply to this area is more. Okay, and what mucous membrane, here also mucous membrane is present, no, that mucus present in this area, in this region, it moistens the air. Okay, so this what? The air conditioning. So what is the function of respiratory region? It is involved in the conditioning of air. Okay, so it helps in warming up of the air and it also moistens the air. So this is what? Respiratory region. And the next region is called as what? Olfactory region. What is the next region? This one. The last part, that is the olfactory region. So you know that nose is a sense organ, right? It senses the smell. It is concerned with the sense of smell, right? So it is in this region. So this region, it is called as what? The olfactory region. And this region, no, this olfactory region, it is lined with olfactory epithelium. It is lined with olfactory epithelium. it contains receptors, olfactory receptors, sensory receptors. Okay, so they are mainly meant for detection of the receptors, detection of smell. So they are concerned with the sense of smell. Okay. So we'll come to know the three different regions of nasal chamber now. One is the vestibular region for filtration of air, respiratory region for conditioning of air, and olfactory region is the region which contains olfactory receptors that senses the smell. Okay, so these are the three different regions of the nasal chamber. And see here in the nasal chamber you will also find here in the nasal chamber. So you will also find some foldings, nothing but there are some outgrowths. Okay, so these outgrowths they are nothing but the bony outgrowths. Okay, so the bony outgrowths, they are the bony ridges which are present in the nasal chamber. So these bony ridges or bony outgrowths are called as, they arise from the wall of the nasal cavity. So these bony ridges or the bony outgrowths are called as conchae. So what are these called? Conchae. Okay, so there are three conchae are present. So this is what the superior conchae plural, this is concha singular. So this is the superior concha, this one no, this is the superior concha, and this is the middle concha, and this is the inferior concha. So three bony ridges are present. So they are called as what? Conchae. So this is the superior concha, this is the middle concha, and this is the inferior concha. So what is the function of this conchae? What is the function? It increases. So the conchae mainly meant for increasing the surface area of the nasal cavity. So the conchae increases the surface area of nasal cavity. So what is the need to increase the surface area here? Because I already said it will perform many functions. No, it helps in the filtration of air, and it also helps in the olfaction sense. It's a region, olfactory region present, that is the senses the smell. It's a sense of smell. This region under respiratory region for conditioning of air, that is warming up of air. It moistens the air. Okay. So the nasal cavity. All these functions are carried out in the nasal cavity. No, so the conchae what present, no, so the increases the surface area of the nasal cavity. So this increased surface area causes the slow movement of air in the nasal chamber. Okay, so if these ridges are not present, the air may go straight. Okay, so it is because of the so it is because of ridges, so the air will go like this. So this increase the surface area, no, so increase surface, these ridges causes the slow movement of air in the nasal cavity. Okay, so that the nasal cavity can perform its functions well. Okay, it warming up of air, or it may be moistening of air, or filtration of air. Okay, detection of smell and all these things. Okay, so this is what the conchae. Conchae are nothing but bony ridges arise from the wall of the nasal cavity. So three such conchae are present: superior concha, middle concha, and inferior concha. So what is the function? Conchae helps in, it increases the surface area of nasal cavity. Understood? So this is what the nasal chamber. Then the next part of the, so external nostrils over, nasal chambers over, then the next part is, so these external nostrils, no, they open into nasopharynx. Okay, so here internal nares are present here. Okay, so internal nares are nothing but what? So what openings which are present externally, they are called as external nares. Similarly, two such openings are present the posterior side. Okay, so those openings which are present on the posterior side, so those are called as what? The internal nares. Okay, it is through the internal nares. It is through the internal nares the nasal chamber will open into nasopharynx. So it is through the internal nares the nasal chambers will open into nasopharynx. Okay, so nasal internal nares are how many in number? 2 in number. Nasal chambers 2 in number. External nares 2 in number. Okay, so nasal chambers will open into nasopharynx through the internal nares. What are internal nares? Internal nares are nothing but the openings which are present on the posterior side. It is through these openings the nasal chambers will open into the nasopharynx. What is this nasopharynx? You already learnt in the last chapter that pharynx, okay, so located a part of it is located in the throat region. Okay, so pharynx is a common passage for food and the air, right? Okay, so this pharynx is differentiated into 3 regions. So this part of the pharynx where the nasal chambers open, that part of the pharynx is called as what? Nasopharynx. So this area is called as nasopharynx. The pharynx which is located behind the nasal chambers is called as nasopharynx. Only the air will pass through the nasopharynx. Okay, and the part of the pharynx which is located behind the oral cavity, this is what? The buccal cavity, no? So it's also called as oral cavity. The buccal cavity will open into a region of the pharynx that is called as oropharynx. So the region of the pharynx located behind the oral cavity where the oral cavity opens, so that part of the pharynx is called as what? Oropharynx. Okay, then the part of the pharynx located in the region of the larynx, this is the larynx, that is the voice box. Okay, the part of the pharynx located in the region of larynx is called as what? Laryngopharynx. So we will come to know the nasal chambers will open into pharynx. So the pharynx is differentiated. It is a common passage for food and as well as the air. And it is differentiated into 3 regions: nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. So nasopharynx, it is the part of the pharynx where the nasal chambers open. Only air will pass into this region. After the nasopharynx, the next part of the pharynx where the oral cavity opens, so that is the oropharynx. And then the part of the pharynx is located in the region of larynx, no, that is called as laryngopharynx. Okay. Now, the nasal chambers will open into which part of the pharynx then? Nasopharynx. That through internal nares. So, through internal nares, the nasal chambers open into nasopharynx. Okay, and the nasopharynx to oropharynx, and the last is the laryngopharynx. Okay, so the laryngopharynx will open into the larynx, that is called as the voice box. Okay, see, if you inhale air, so the inhaled air will passes through the nasal chamber and it reaches the pharynx region. Okay, so once the inhaled air reaches the pharynx region, it has 2 structures where it can go forward. Okay, so this is what? The trachea, windpipe, which is located front region. Okay, so this is called as what? The trachea, and behind this, the dorsal side, this is what? The esophagus, that is the food pipe. Okay, so you already learnt esophagus in the last chapter. So when the air reaches the pharynx, it has 2 structures, right? So where it can go forward. This is the front tube, that is called as trachea or windpipe, and behind this is another pipe that is called as the food pipe, that is called as esophagus. But normally the inhaled air will enter into the trachea, that is to the windpipe, instead of esophagus. It will not enter into the esophagus, but it will enter into the trachea. Why so? This is because during normal conditions, so this esophagus is a collapsed structure. So when you are not taking any food, so esophagus it is closed. So that's why the air from the pharynx will enter the trachea instead of esophagus. Right? Understood clearly? Now, after the pharynx, okay, so the nasopharynx will leads to oropharynx, and oropharynx will leads to laryngopharynx, and the laryngopharynx will open into the next part, that is called as what? Larynx. So this is what? The larynx. Okay. So through a opening, that is called as glottis. Glottis is the opening of the larynx, where the laryngopharynx will open into the larynx. Okay. So let us discuss the larynx. What is larynx? It is also called as I rub this. Larynx. Larynx is also called as voice box. Why it is called voice box? It is because it helps in the production of sound. Voice box or sound box. Okay. See, this larynx, no, it is located in the neck region. Here, the larynx is present here, the front part of the neck, anterior part of the neck. So here larynx is present here, and it is a box-like structure. Larynx is a box-like structure. It is present in the neck region, and mainly it performs two important functions. What are the two important functions? One is it connects this is what trachea, okay. So where larynx is present, so the larynx is present anterior to the trachea. This is the trachea, that is called as the windpipe, okay. So anterior to the trachea, that means upper to the trachea, there is a larynx. This is called as the larynx, and this is the voice box, okay. So the laryngopharynx, this is the laryngopharynx, right. The laryngopharynx will open into larynx, then the larynx leads to a trachea. Okay, so the larynx connects the pharynx with the trachea. Okay, the larynx connects the pharynx with trachea, and as I said, it is called voice box or sound box. It helps in the production of sound. So that's why it is called as voice box or sound box. Okay, right? So then this larynx, no, as I said, it is a box like structure. It is located in the neck region. It is located in the anterior part of the trachea. Okay, so towards its upper surface, see, this is a trachea, this is the larynx. So the larynx towards its upper surface, it is having a opening. Okay, so that opening is called as what? Glottis. So the opening of larynx is called as what? Opening of larynx is called as what? Glottis. What it is called? Glottis. Right. So this glottis, it is guarded by a leaf-like cartilage. Leaf-like cartilage. So that is called as epiglottis. What it is called? Epiglottis. See, this one, no? Are you seeing this yellow colored leaf-like structure? So this is called as the epiglottis. So it is very important. Epiglottis. What is the function of epiglottis? Epiglottis. So here it is see, this is what the larynx. Larynx. Okay. So this is what the opening of the larynx. So here is present a leaf-like cartilage that is called as what? Epiglottis. So larynx, so the opening of the larynx, and here is the epiglottis. Okay. So what is the function of this? This epiglottis, it is made up of cartilage. Which cartilage? Elastic cartilage. Okay. So this epiglottis will closes. Okay. This closes. When it closes, when we are swallowing the food, so this epiglottis, this epiglottis will closes the opening of the larynx, that is the glottis. So during swallowing, the glottis is covered by the epiglottis, so that the food will not enter into the windpipe. Okay, the food will not enter into the trachea, because when we are swallowing the food, the epiglottis closes the glottis. That is what the functioning of glottis. That is what the functioning of epiglottis. Right. So what is the function of epiglottis? It closes the glottis during swallowing of food, so that it prevents the entry of food into the respiratory tract. So what is the function? It prevents the entry of food into the respiratory tract. So that is what the function of epiglottis. You have to remember this point. So this is for NEET exam, for your NEET. So what I am explaining now, so the different part of the nasal cavity, that vestibular region, respiratory region, and olfactory region. So all these things are not given in the NCERT. For your NEET exam, for your extra knowledge, I am telling this. Okay. So all these points what I am telling now, that is for NEET. And so this is what? Epiglottis. Okay. Now, so you know that laryngopharynx will open into larynx. It is a box-like structure and it performs two functions. It produces the sound and it also connects the pharynx with the trachea. And the opening of the larynx is called as what? Glottis. So the glottis, it is covered by, so the glottis, it is guarded with what? A leaf-like structure, that is called as the epiglottis. Okay. So that what is the function of epiglottis? It prevents the entry of food into the respiratory tract while swallowing the food. Okay. And so one more point you have to remember here is epiglottis is made up of elastic cartilage. What is cartilage? See, as I already said, in animals there are 4 different types of tissues are present, right? Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. So all these things you will learn in the another chapter, that is structural organization in animals. One chapter it is there. So in this chapter we will going to learn all the different types of tissues, okay, and their functions and all. Okay. Now here cartilage. So cartilage is, so of the 4 different types of tissues I said, cartilage is the connective tissue. Okay. So connective tissue, in connective tissue again there are different types are there, that is loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, skeletal connective tissue, fluid connective tissue. Cartilage is a skeletal connective tissue and one more skeletal connective tissue is a bone. Okay. So bone, what skeleton which is present in our body, no, bone, that is a hard and rigid skeletal connective tissue, but whereas cartilage, it is a soft and flexible connective tissue. It is present in some areas, in some regions in our body. Okay, it allows little movement, but whereas bone is very rigid, but cartilage is, it is a little soft and flexible. Okay. And epiglottis is made up of, and that cartilage is three types. There are three types of cartilage are present. One is the hyaline cartilage, and the second one is that is elastic cartilage and fibrocartilage. So cartilage is what? It is a skeletal connective tissue. It is a soft and flexible connective tissue present in some regions in our body, and there are three different types of cartilage are there. One is the hyaline cartilage, another one is fibrocartilage, and another one is elastic cartilage. That all these things you will going to learn in another chapter. Okay, but here what you have to remember here is epiglottis is made up of elastic cartilage. Elastic cartilage is a type of cartilage. Understood? So this is also for NEET. Epiglottis is a type of it is a elastic cartilage. Understood all these things? Now, as I said, larynx, it is a box like structure. It is made up of so this is for NEET. Larynx. Larynx is made up of 9 cartilage. 9 cartilages. It is a box like structure and made up of 9 cartilage. 9 cartilages, of which 3 are paired and 3 are unpaired. So the unpaired cartilages present in the larynx are thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and epiglottis. I already explained, no, epiglottis. And the paired ones include arytenoid cartilage, then corniculate cartilage, and cuneiform cartilage. So totally, so larynx, voice box, it is a box like structure made up of how many cartilages? 9 cartilages. So of which 3 are unpaired ones and the 3 are paired ones. See, thyroid cartilage is single, it is unpaired. How many in number? 1. Cricoid cartilage is also unpaired. So how many in number? 1. Epiglottis is also unpaired. How many in number? 1. Whereas arytenoid cartilage, okay, arytenoid cartilage is paired one, so it is how many in number? 2. And corniculate cartilage, it is also paired one, and this is also 2 in number, and cuneiform cartilage is also 2 in number. So totally how many cartilages? 3 plus 2 5 plus 2 7 plus 2 9. So totally how many cartilages are there here? 9 cartilages. Okay. So here all this this much detail is not necessary. What here you have to remember is the larynx is made up of 9 cartilages. Okay. So of which are the paired ones and which are the unpaired ones? So which are the paired ones? Which are the unpaired ones? First, thyroid cartilage. Second one is cricoid cartilage, epiglottis, and which are the paired ones? Arytenoid cartilage. How to pronounce? arytenoid cartilage. How you will pronounce this one? Corniculate cartilage and later cuneiform cartilage. All the three are paired ones. Okay. See, of the 9 cartilages, the biggest cartilage is the largest cartilage is the thyroid cartilage. Which one is the largest cartilage? Thyroid cartilage is the largest cartilage. So, all the 9 cartilages, okay, all the 9 cartilages together form a larynx. Okay, that is a box-like structure. So, of the 9, which is the largest one? A thyroid cartilage. So, this thyroid cartilage is made up of hyaline cartilage. It is made up of hyaline cartilage, whereas cricoid cartilage, it is present below the thyroid cartilage. It is also made up of hyaline cartilage, and epiglottis, I already said, it is made up of elastic cartilage, and arytenoid is made up of hyaline cartilage, and corniculate is made up of, the type of cartilage here is elastic cartilage, and cuneiform is also elastic cartilage. Okay. So, totally how many cartilages? 9 cartilages. Which is the largest, which are the unpaired ones? Thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage and epiglottis are the unpaired ones. And which are the paired ones? Arytenoid cartilage, corniculate cartilage and cuneiform cartilage. These are the paired ones. Okay. And the type of cartilage, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage and arytenoid cartilages are the hyaline cartilage. Okay. Whereas epiglottis, corniculate and cuneiform cartilage are the of elastic cartilage. Understood? Okay. And here this thyroid cartilage, no, so it is like this. Okay. So, this is what the thyroid cartilage, this is the largest cartilage which is present here in the front region, and see here this thyroid cartilage as a projection like this. Okay, now this is the projection, it will project like this. Okay. So, this projection, it is called as Adam's apple. What it is called? Adam's apple. Okay. So, this Adam's apple is present in this region. Okay. So, this Adam's apple, it is more prominent. Okay. It is more prominent in man. So, this is what? Adam's apple. This is the thyroid cartilage, and this is this one. This is called as the cricoid cartilage. So, thyroid cartilage is the largest one, and this is below the thyroid cartilage is the cricoid cartilage, and here you can find, so hyoid bone will be there. So, this is the hyoid bone, and here you can find the presence of epiglottis. Okay. So, just a rough diagram it is, just to show different types of cartilages. This is the thyroid cartilage, this is the which one? Cricoid cartilage, and this is the epiglottis. So, when you turn this side, you will find another 3, that is arytenoid cartilage, corniculate cartilage and cuneiform cartilage. See here, so this is what the larynx, it is a box like structure. This is what the opening of the larynx, that is called as glottis, and here present what? epiglottis, right? So now see, so the front part, no? So this part, this is called as thyroid cartilage, and here is the epiglottis. This is the epiglottis, and here, so this is what, this one, no? This is cricoid cartilage. Okay, so this is thyroid, this is epiglottis, and this is a cricoid cartilage. It is present below the thyroid cartilage. It is like a ring. Okay, and behind this, this is the front part, and here in the posterior region, anterior region, and this is the posterior region. So again, this is the epiglottis. Again, this is here, this is cricoid. Okay, and see here, okay, these are the arytenoid cartilages. Okay, so this is again cricoid. So this is the thyroid cartilage, this is epiglottis, and these two, these are the paired ones, no, arytenoid cartilages. Arytenoid cartilages are the paired ones. So this one, arytenoid cartilage. Okay, these are the paired ones, pyramid shaped structures. These are called as arytenoid cartilages. At the top of the arytenoid cartilages, so there will be corniculate cartilages. So there will be node-like structures present at the top of the arytenoid cartilage. So this is called as corniculate cartilage. And here the cuneiform cartilages are present anterior to the corniculate cartilage, and they connect the epiglottis here, epiglottis with the arytenoid cartilage. Okay, the cuneiform will connect, they are the small rod-like structures, they connect the epiglottis with the arytenoid cartilage, they are located in this region, and these two are the arytenoid cartilages. At the top of the arytenoid cartilage you will find corniculate cartilage, and here is the cricoid cartilage. Okay, so you don't bother much about this, you just know larynx is having 9 cartilages, in that which are paired ones and which are unpaired ones, and which is the largest cartilage. Okay, so this is enough for your NEET exams. Okay, so this is what the larynx. And one more function of the larynx, I said it helps in the production of sound, right? To produce sound, the larynx is having vocal cords. So inside the larynx you will find vocal cords. Okay, vocal cords, how many in number? 2 pairs. 2 pairs of vocal cords are present in the inside the larynx. Okay. So this is what the opening of the larynx, okay, like this. Okay, so the opening of the larynx, that opening of the larynx, it is called as what? Glottis. This is the epiglottis. This one is the epiglottis. Here you find the presence of vocal cords. Vocal cords are how many in number? 2 pairs, no? 1 pair of vocal cords are located in the lower region. Okay, these are called as the vocal cords. Okay, they are located. The lower vocal cords are called as true vocal cords. They are called as what? True vocal cords. Okay, and the upper pair of vocal cords are called as the present here. These are called as what? False vocal cords. These are called as false vocal cords. Okay, the false vocal cords are nothing but what? They are nothing but the mucous membrane folds. Okay, if it is the opening of the larynx, so the vocal cords are like this. Okay, in the center, that opening, that is glottis, and the vocal cords are present like this. Okay. So, these vocal cords are nothing but what? They are nothing but the extension of the mucous membrane which are arising from the sides into the lumen of the larynx. Lumen means what? Inside cavity, no? So, that is what? The lumen. So, vocal cords are nothing but the mucous membrane extensions. The mucous membrane arising from the sides, no? So, that extend into the lumen forming a vocal cord. So, the vocal cords are present in this region. In that first pair, that is the upper pair, it is called as false vocal cords, and whereas the lower pair it is called as true vocal cords. False vocal cords will not involved in the production of sound, whereas true vocal cords are involved in the production of sound. Okay. See this true vocal cords, no? So you might have you know that in men, the men are having a low pitched voice. What is the reason for that? Vocal cords in men are thick. Okay, they are thick and long, so that they vibrate very slowly. Okay, so as they vibrate very slowly, that results in a low pitched voice. Okay, that's why the men having a low pitched. That's why the men having low pitched voice. Okay, so the true vocal cords helps in the production of sound. How the sound is produced? How the sound is produced? See, during expiration. Expiration means what? During exhaling of air. Okay, so inspiration means intake of air, whereas expiration is exhaling of air. Okay, so during expiration what happens? The air will come out of the lungs. Okay, so when the air come out of the lungs, it will passes through this vocal cords under pressure. So when the air from the lungs passes through the vocal cords under pressure, these vocal cords will vibrate. What happens here? The vocal cords will, when the air is passing through the vocal cords will vibrate. So the vibration of the vocal cords produces the sound. So what is the function of vocal cords here? It helps in true vocal cords. Okay, the true vocal cords helps in the production. The vibration of true vocal cords helps in the production of sound. Okay, so it occurs during expiration. And here this larynx, so that's why that larynx it is called as voice box or the sound box, and it helps only in the production of sound, but speech is possible because of with the help of tongue, cheeks, okay, then upper lip and the lower lip, jaw, so all this helps in speech. Okay, so as the larynx, what vocal cords present in the larynx produces the sound, so this larynx is also called as voice box or sound box. Understood? Okay, so this is what the respiratory tract. So up to larynx I explained. So the later part I will explain in the next video. Okay, so what we discussed today? Respiratory tract. In that, it begins with external nostrils, then nasal chambers, external nostrils, nasal chambers, part of the nasal region, three regions of the nasal chambers, vestibular part, respiratory part and the olfactory part, and the pharynx, the three regions of the pharynx, and the larynx. The pharynx will open into the larynx, and this is what the epiglottis, that is which closes. What is the function of epiglottis here? It closes the glottis while swallowing the food, so it prevents the entry of food into the respiratory tract. And the larynx, you know that what we have discussed, no, that larynx, it is a box, it is made up of 9 cartilage. In that 3 are paid and 3 are unpaid, and the largest cartilage is the thyroid cartilage. And epiglottis is made up of which cartilage? Elastic cartilage. Okay, and we also discussed the vocal cords, okay, how the sound is produced, so entire thing. Okay, so in our next video I discuss the remaining part of the respiratory system. Understood clearly? All of you understood? Thank you.